and their perspective on Rotary. We actually got together as a group about a week ago and went over some of the ideas for this panel, so we have actually rehearsed.
Which brought us here.
What's that?
Which is why we're doing this conference.
So one of the panelists recently rejoined their club after having had to leave due to a job change. And she's going to talk about how her club kept her engaged until she could rejoin when her job again changed. Another panelist is part of a team of members through a corporate membership, which made it possible for her to join and overcome the challenge of finding the time to attend a weekly meeting. Another panelist is fulfilling his drive for community service. So each of these unique stories and unique perspectives will hopefully give you at least one idea, maybe two, that you can take back to your club and share with your members. We have one rule for the panel. All the questions are going to be saved for the end because we want to make sure we hear from everyone, and we are under a little bit of a time squeeze. And each panelist has been given the difficult assignment of answering a few questions in about 4 minutes. So I'm going to stand kind of off to the side, and if you see me go like this, I'm not scratching my neck. I'm signaling. You're starting to run over. Each panelist was asked the following questions. How were you recruited? Who, what, when, where? What was the process? How were you educated about what it means to be a Rotarian? Tell us that story. The second thing we asked them to think about was, what was the biggest reason or attraction that motivated you to join? And was there a major hurdle to overcome? And if you can tell us all that in less than 4 minutes, we want to hear it. And then the third thing, if they have time to touch on, is what is your club doing to keep the Rotary promise alive and to engage you? So I'm going to step off to the side and call up each of the panelists. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of one of them. I've mixed up my cards here. They're in no particular order. And Rick McPherson, you get to go first. Rick is from the Framingham Club. Rick has been involved as a YMCA professional for 30 years, currently serving as CEO of Metro West YMCA. He's been in Rotary for 10 months. He grew up in Brookline, where both his parents are still active Rotarians. Rick lives in Holden.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here tonight, and while I am technically a new Rotarian, 10 months with the Framingham Club, I grew up in a Rotary Club, it seems like, with my parents, who, if they wouldn't mind putting their hands up so you could see them here tonight. My dad, Al. Both past presidents, my mom involved in the district, and like I said, growing up, for me, Paul Harris plaques on the walls and Rotary flags flying around and all that kind of business. So yeah, I know a bit about the Rotary. And in Framingham, when I had an opportunity to take the position as CEO of the Metro West YMCA, our CEO had been a longtime member of the club. And when she was retiring and I was moving into the position, she pulled me into her office and said, Rick, you need to join the Rotary Club. You know, I've been there for years, and it would be important for you to be there for the organization, and it would, you know, she said it would be good for me to, you know, get to know the, you know, lots of great people in the club, and the networking was important, and all of that. I was secretly just excited to have an opportunity to join for that reason, but also because of just the opportunities to serve and get to know the community I was working in better. So far, it's just been a great experience. I don't have a lot to say. I was recruited by the past CEO, and then in our club, there were 3 Rotarians invited me to a meeting prior to actually getting through the process of being voted in officially. So I got a pretty good orientation about, you know, what was coming and what meetings were like, and, you know, I got a good handle on what to expect. So that, you know, that was helpful. Let's see, what else? Yeah, the meetings or on Mondays, I would say, as a new person coming in, kind of a challenge is Mondays, meetings are for close to 2 hours. In my work, that's tough. 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, you're pretty much carving out of your day. So it's not impossible, but that is a tough kind of time commitment to make. Also for me, I live outside the service area, and so much of Rotary, as you know, is the social side. And there's lots of evening things and weekend things. But for me, that's a bit of a challenge that you need to, I still struggle with some. In the Rotary Club, I think, in my initial orientation, that was great. I learned a lot. But there is we're thinking about bringing on new people and getting them welcome. There is a lot of kind of things, like unwritten things that go on at Rotary meetings. In our club, we have a duck we pass around for happy dollars, and you're like, what is that about? And we learn and kind of go with that. And but there's lots of little things you need to learn along the way that you pick up over time. But in general, I can just say it's been a great experience. Again, the major thing I would say was touched on already, and that's about clarity of purpose as a new person coming in, being able to articulate out there in the community to potential other people, what really are we all about, because we're about so much internationally, locally. Our club is into a lot of important, meaningful things, but it's a lot, and it's kind of hard to explain and to get a handle on. So I think early on, for me, it's been it's taken some time to be able to really understand what is it that our club really cares about. Again, I'm learning more and more about what Rotary is internationally focused on and all of that. But so those are the things that I think I would take away from my first year. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
We did our rehearsal last week. We met for about 90 minutes, and I wish you all could have been there for the rehearsal, because it was just great to sit down and come up with so many ideas. And one of the things we talked about, which I think, Rick, is the takeaway that I'm getting anyway, is that when you're a new member, you need an elevator speech. So you can go out and recruit other new members. And it takes a while to learn that elevator speech so that you can really succinctly say to other people what it means to be in Rotary. So when you invite someone else to come to a meeting, you can say with clarity what it is you're going to do there, because a lot of people don't understand. All right, let's see. The next panelist is Jason Canuti. Jason is from the Westboro Club. He grew up in Wellesley, attended UMass Amherst, worked for a large publicly traded corporation as a general manager and executive team leader before transitioning to Merrill Lynch in 2011. Currently, he's a financial advisor for Morgan Stanley. He joined Rotary in late 2012. Jason.
I have a little cold, so I'm going to keep my water here with me. So I'll talk for a few minutes about how I was recruited, onboarded, and a little bit of an idea I have that kind of relates, and I think I was provided a good segue as far as the elevator speech. Last year I was approached by a lady who's in our Rotary Club, who we do some business with, and asked if I wanted to join her for lunch with a number of her friends and some other folks. I said, sure, why not? Gotta eat, let's go. Went down, walked into a room, 40 people there. Okay, so this isn't just a usual lunch. So the point of what I'm saying, and subsequently I loved it. I love the culture, I love the environment. I was welcomed with open arms, handshakes, smiles. The message, service above self, was provided to me through being immersed into the culture of the first couple meetings. After that, of course, there were the formalities, but I knew right away when I did go to that lunch that Rotary would be something I'd be interested in. I have a long history of being interested in service, and there was a gap of a couple of years where I hadn't really found something that I wanted to join that would allow me to provide that and feel comfortable with the time frames and the different links that the organization would have. And once I found Rotary, I really found exactly where I wanted to be. Now, I went out, shared with some of my coworkers, friends, colleagues, family that I joined Rotary, and the response was pretty consistent. It's a bunch of old people. Why would you join that? And I said, all right, it's not true, okay? So it brings us back to elevator speech. So my thought in kind of talking about new membership, and particularly some Rotary opportunities for youth, is kind of twofold. First of all, we have these great programs, RILA, which I went to this year. Pat, thank you, had a great time. Interact, Rotaract. It seems like a natural pipeline of young men and women who should find a lot of benefits and interest in joining the Rotary Club when they graduate from college. And I'm not entirely familiar being new with the transition process, but it seems to me that that's something we should completely wrap our arms around. And any alumni or any local folks who are involved with these different programs and colleges, I think that we should be all over grabbing these people and saying, listen, these are the benefits when you graduate from college of actually joining a Rotary Club. Not only the network and the culture that you go into, the ability to provide service, but it's just a great, great, great thing to do. And I don't know that a lot of the folks that I know have always done that. So that's number one. Number two, I'll go back a little bit. I used to work for Target, it's the corporation. And about 5 years ago, we had this problem where we were missing sales in the company. So the whole board threw out these ideas. How are we going to drive sales? How are we going to meet these goals? And the idea that one of the gentlemen threw out was this concept of, can I help you find something? I don't know if you guys ever go to Target or if you ever see the little name tags or on the commercials, but it's now a big thing. Can I help you find something? Well, asking every team member to ask every guest, right, every customer in the store, can I help you find something, resulted in an increase by 50 cents per customer per visit, and helped the company not only meet sales, but exceed it by a lot for that year. That one simple concept, can I help you find something? So I thought to myself, during this panel discussion, how often do I ask somebody if they'd like to join me for lunch? How I was recruited. Obviously it worked, right? And I don't do it that often. I should do it more. So my thought would be, why don't we all challenge each other, right, and ourselves, just to ask, I don't know if it's once a week, if somebody would like to join you for lunch and come down to Rotary. Because we never know who it's going to resonate with, right? We might think it's one person, we might think it's another, but you really don't know. And I think it's just such a simple concept that could really help drive new membership. So with that, Dave Kaiser back there, thank you. He's our Westboro Rotary president. Been engaged since day one when I walked in. So thank you so much, Dave, and Doug and everybody else for letting me have a couple minutes here. Thank you.
Okay, so now takeaway, thank you, Jason, is invite somebody to come to a meeting. It's pretty simple. Next panelist is Gina Wilson. Gina is a member of the Montechusett Rotary Club. She is an attorney at Housatary and Wilson in Fitchburg. Gina lives in Hubbardston. She specializes in all areas of property law, and she joined Rotary 4 months ago. Gina.
Hi. So, of course, one of the big challenges, they told me I only had 4 minutes, and I'm a lawyer, so we like to talk. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Karen. She can just, now. Anyway, I was not at the rehearsal, so I may not hit all of the questions. So you can ask me later. We'll just preface it with that. I was recruited into Rotary by my Sunday school teacher. No pressure there. And he just asked me if I would meet him and one of his friends at a Rotary breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I said, yes, of course I will. I'd be happy to. And little did I know that once I got there, got to know the people, that there's really not much that's going to get me up to be at a breakfast for 7:15 in the morning on a regular basis. But I look forward to getting up and going to see my Rotary family every Thursday morning. When I first started, I had a very nice conversation with this gentleman who's not a member of my club, but is a member of another club, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But with his co-worker, who I had heard awful gruesome tales about in Sunday school, who really turned out not to be such a bad guy. Shortly after that first immersion into that particular club, one of the other members reached out to me and asked me to join her for lunch to give me an opportunity to ask her some questions that I had. Also, for me, it was not my first foray into Rotary. I had been a member of the Fitchburg Rotary Club. It was not a good fit for me for a number of reasons. It met for 2 hours in the middle of the afternoon weekly, and I could not keep that commitment. And then in addition to that, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and I was unable to then keep the commitment at all. So I did have to leave that club, but I was blessed to find this Thursday morning club, and I'm just having the greatest time. In addition to being an attorney, and where my passion really lies, is I'm a youth worker at my church. I work with high school students every Wednesday night, and I can second what was said here just a minute ago. These kids are phenomenal. They are a natural breeding ground for Rotary values. They are looking for someone to show them that they have value. They do have value, and there are so many things out there in our culture that are pushing them in the wrong direction. They have so much to offer. They have time. They have part-time jobs and a little bit of money. They have creativity and a desire to truly make a difference. Service above self is something that's easier for them than it is for us. So I would second the idea and be more than willing to talk about how we can grow the high school and college clubs perhaps in Worcester County or in our respective areas. I was kind of happy and sad to find out that Leominster, which is the host town for Montechusett Rotary, does not have an Interact Club in their high school. So that's an opportunity to reach out and even through these students, reach the parents with the Rotary values and get them involved as well. I do work with my brother. He is not yet a Rotarian, but there's potential there. I think within our own families we can find people as well. Sometimes it's that person that you're not really sure about that would surprise you with their interest in what's going on. And I think one thing about our club is we are very, very well informed. We know what's coming up. We know when it's coming up. We're told repeatedly. So even when I do forget, I do not have an excuse. We have a calendar that's accessible to us. Our finances are right out in the open for us. We have a lot of opportunity, a lot of encouragement, and a lot of support. And so it makes it easier for us, I think, to talk to others about what Rotary is and what it's about.
And a couple points there that I really liked. The fact that you had a situation that didn't work and you had to leave, but then you found another one that did work. And that's the beauty of Rotary. So if all of a sudden your schedule changes and you can't go to the lunch meeting in Fitchburg anymore, you might be able to go to the breakfast meeting in Leominster, even if you don't like getting up at 7:15 in the morning. So thank you, Gina. Our next panelist is Jim McFarland, and I do stress the McFarland. He's very Irish. He's from the Acton Boxborough Club. Jim joined Rotary in January of 2013. He lives in Acton. He's retired after 40 years in technical hardware sales. The reason I know Jim is very Irish is because Jim actually volunteered with the Rotary Club of Neshoba Valley on its summer program Wings and Wheels, and he signs every email Mick something or other. So I introduce Mr. McRotary to you.
Good evening. I'm bringing my wine because I don't have a cold. Public speaking is always helpful to have a little crutch. So anyway, I'm delighted to be here this evening and hopefully can impart some new member wisdom. So I really view myself as self-recruited to Rotary. Robin Hopes in our club in Acton was a little startled that I called 2 or 3 times, couldn't connect with her, kept calling and said, I'm going to join. You know, I went to the meeting at the Acton Boxborough Rotary Club, you know, at Holiday Inn, and it snowed, and nobody was here. I said, you know, so what, you don't meet if you have an inch of snow? What's going on here? So, you know, that was kind of the approach I took, is I'm joining, and, you know, Katie barred the door. So they were reasonable and saw it my way, and I joined shortly thereafter. And I tell people, trust me, because I'm in sales, and you know, you go from there. So it's been a delight. Marvin Gold, everyone, as others here have stated, I was greeted with open arms, really made to feel from the first lunch meeting as a member. That's very important, even though my profession is sales and creating relationships and such. You notice when you walk into an organization where there's laughter, where there's, you know, those powerful relationships already in place, and that you're welcomed in as an unknown to that group. That is very, very powerful indeed. So I knew about Rotary. I knew I couldn't join until I retired, being the sales type, the road warrior, whatever, until I could commit the way I wanted to commit to Rotary. So it's been an absolute delight. I've already gotten elected secretary, you know, so that's what happens. You show up and they say, you're it, you know, off you go. So we had a speaker a couple of weeks ago, and in terms of the whole membership piece here, that stated, you know, Rotary is known for the polio, end polio, and that is a wonderful, obviously tremendously worthwhile project. His reference, however, was the fact that young people can't really relate to that because they're not where we were back when polio was a scourge, okay? So it's very hard for them to relate to polio as it is, as that threat, that scourge, that entity. And I think, obviously, we continue on and we finish this incredible project, but we also need to be focused on what is it that young people, with their texting and their computers and how they relate, and what is it that they view as important and worthwhile as that kind of a project. Doug, you mentioned hunger. Hunger's universal. You know, it's well known. Hunger is everywhere in all of our communities. So when I heard you mention that, I think that's something that might resonate with young people as a way to draw them into the club. You might call it food for thought, so to speak. Okay? So anyway, the other issue is, speaking of those young people, we need to have more flexibility in terms of the dues. If you've got a young person graduating from college who's not even employed yet, who's trying to find work, and we know how hard that's been of late for these young folks. In many cases, they're burdened by student loans, okay? If there's a way we can structure membership for those young people who may have an interest in Rotary to make it absolutely easy for them financially to join our club and participate and add value without the financial burden, however small we may perceive that, it could be a big deal and a barrier to getting young people into Rotary, which I think we can avoid. So the other piece in Acton in particular, and then I'll finish, we have a thriving and growing Asian Indian community in Acton in the last 10 years. It's been dramatic, the influx of these wonderful folks. And yet we have no Asians in our club. We don't reflect something like 26% of our community today in our club. And one of the things, I was speaking with a gentleman from Lowell at an assembly in the spring about his efforts to draw the ethnic groups within his community in Lowell into the club and engage and reach out to them. And he's having great success doing that. So I think it's an opportunity for all of us as we look at our respective communities to say, we can't ignore this. We need to draw these folks in, create value, convince them of the value of Rotary. And many times that's done by showing them what Rotary is doing for their home country. Okay? Is how you reach that constituency. So that's kind of my 2 cents worth. The other focus here would be local. Focus on the local. You can certainly mention Rotary International, that's vital, but what gets people excited is the local. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McRotary. So again, we talked at our rehearsal, I keep calling it, last week, a lot about the image of Rotary and how to attract new members, we really have to think about that image, and I don't have the answers in terms of whether or not we need to change it, but one of the things we did talk about is that when you go out and tell new people, well, what is Rotary? Well, Rotary is the organization that's responsible for the near eradication of worldwide polio. And sometimes people look at you and they're not really sure what polio is. So we talked a lot about that at our meeting last week. Thanks, Jim. Next is Lisa Trainer, who is from the Rotary Club of Neshoba Valley. She is both a charter member, meaning that she joined when the club was born, which was just a year and a half ago, and she's now a new member. She had to leave the club after a few months because her job changed, and a year or so into that, her job changed again. And the Rotary Club of Neshoba Valley was able to keep her engaged during that time frame, and she was able to rejoin. So she's going to tell you a little bit about that journey. She lives in Hudson. She's married 20 years to her husband Mark, 2 kids, a daughter who goes to UMass Amherst, a son who's a sophomore in high school. She's worked for the past 10 years in mortgage and retail banking and is currently a residential mortgage specialist for the Evil Empire, otherwise known as Bank of America.
I am certainly not one for public speaking, and my martini's over there. But my story was that I was recruited by Karen, actually. We had both worked for the same bank, and she asked me one day, do you want to go to a Rotary meeting? I had never even heard of Rotary, really. I've seen the signs on the side of the road. Didn't really know anything about Rotary, so when I went to my first meeting, I was pleasantly surprised. What I liked about our group was that it was all different ages of people, a lot of women. So in some cases, I know a lot of Rotaries, it's more men-driven, but I liked our club for the fact that it had a variety of different members and a lot of people that did a lot of different things. So I enjoyed going to the Rotary and I enjoyed being a charter member. I was trying to find something where I could volunteer. I think it's good for your children to see you volunteer, and then they may want to volunteer in the future. So that was my goal, and I think with our club, we certainly accomplished that. The issue that I had was my job, I had to be in the office, so I couldn't come to the meetings anymore. But I was able to come back, and for my club, the hours that we do our meetings, we do 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. And so it gives you a little flexibility with your meetings. And also the cost of the meetings is very low, $5 in the morning and $10 at night. So those were the things I really liked about our Rotary. I think we have a great team. And I'm going to stop because I'm looking nervous. But thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be and proud to be a member.
Thank you, Lisa. And the takeaway there is that sometimes it's not working and you have to stop, and then leave it to an Irishman, right? Okay. All right, next panelist is Amy Mosher, who is here from the Worcester Club. Amy works for Workforce Central Career Center in Worcester, specializing in entrepreneurship training. She also hosts a show called Exposure with Mosher on WCCA TV 13, which spotlights early stage entrepreneurs and work-ready job seekers. She joined Rotary in August. So here's Amy.
Hello, Rotary. Good evening. Good to be here. Hello. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with Rotary other than the very fine memory when I was 18 years old. I graduated from Algonquin Regional High School in Northborough, and my mom said, apply to this scholarship. It will help you with your books in college. So I did, and I got, I believe it was a $750 scholarship, and it really helped me start school with the books that I needed. I didn't come from a family that was too familiar with college, so it was really an honor to be a part of it, and that's always something that's been in my heart. Now I look at $750, it's still a good chunk of change, but then it felt like it was $750 million. So I just want to thank Rotarians all around the world for helping me with my books my freshman year at UVM, and my mom and dad, thank you too. So I do live and work in Worcester. In terms of how I was recruited, the fine gentleman behind the video camera over here, Dr. Satya Mitra, he's really the apparently the king of recruiting, so you'll hear more from him later. But I've actually been a guest on his radio show several times. He has a really great program for those of you who may not know it yet, called Not Only Money. And he's in the financial world during his day job, but on the weekends he does a show to spotlight different, people that are doing good work in the community, that it's not all related to money, it's really about giving back and making a difference. So one of my other side gigs is working with young people as well, and I teach them philanthropy, and they get to assess community needs and give back in their own community. So he actually was even great enough to have our teenagers on his show, and that showed me a lot about him and how much he really trust the young people to articulate their opinions, and that their opinions matter. So that was really inspiring. And when he said, I really want you to think about coming on to Rotary, I'm going to be president, so it's the perfect time for you to sign up. So I said, okay, that's good enough reason. I think it's important too to note that I was very warmly invited and welcomed several times. The year before I joined, I had been invited probably, 5 or 6 times by multiple people, so I guess was getting the hint, and I did come twice. I was able to join in on the luncheon and enjoy different guest speakers, and in fact, another time I was actually invited to be a speaker myself at our Rotary Club in Worcester before I became a member, or was even really considering becoming a member. So I think that's a really nice way to just hear from different new prospective members, is to actually have them come and share some of the work that they do in their communities. And I think, something that's, I'm going to put this down, I'm kind of doing one of these. Something that I just want to, how much time do I have, Karen? And Karen, nice to meet you. I know we hadn't actually met yet, a lot of back and forth over the phone and email. But one thing that I want to leave with tonight is just, to help new members identify, in a world that can often come across like, cynicism and resignation, or the way of the world today, and I don't personally believe that, but I think that there's a lot of evidence, there's a lot of media footage out there that isn't entirely inspiring, and sometimes we wonder what's the point. I know, my colleague mentioned it's important to, hear from the young people and be a good role model for our young people, and I do think that there's a lot to say about helping people identify their own intrinsic motivation, and what is the legacy that we each want to leave on the planet? How do we want to leave this place maybe a little bit better than we found it? And that's something that I think, Dr. Mitra had sort of touched on with me in one of our various conversations is, this is work that you already do in the world, Amy. This mission seems very in line with who you are and your community, and, it just seems like I'm more impactful as part of a group that has more of a collective impact on helping people realize their individual potential in the world. So that's personally what really drives me. I think this is a great forum, or a great platform, a great community, family of people that really do care about the world. I can speak for myself. I care about fulfilling my own potential and being a leader in my community to fulfill my potential, because otherwise I'm not sure why I'm here, and that's probably another conversation over several drinks. But so we'll sort of leave it at that. And I just think this is a really unique opportunity in a world that we don't always see opportunity. And I just want to sort of say, I'm sure other folks are thinking about it, if you can believe it, 12 years ago tomorrow, I just want to say that I'm very grateful to live in a nation that we can come together and meet and live freely on the eve of September 11th. So thank you all for having me speak.
So 2 really good thoughts there that I just have to touch on again is speakers are great people to ask to join the club. You learn a little bit about them, they learn a little bit about you when they come to your meetings. The other thing that you touched on, I think, is what Roy was trying to drive home in the beginning, which is that for all of us, there's this passion to do good work in the community. And so there's lots of other people out in our communities that want to do good work and maybe don't know about Rotary and don't know that by doing it through Rotary, you can leverage what you want to do because you get more done when there's a lot of us. So go talk to other like-minded people. Many of them are running nonprofits and community service organizations in your communities. Those are great people to be speakers. Those are great people to ask to join Rotary. Joanne, we saved you. Joanne, is it Mosley or, I'm sorry,
Rossley.
Rossley, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Joanne is from the Montechusett Club, and she works for Doubletree by Hilton in Leominster in group sales. When she gets up here, you're gonna know like in half a second why she's in sales. She lives in Hudson, and she joined on July 1st. And she's gonna tell us about a really cool thing that the Montechusett Club is doing to drive new membership. So, Joanne.
I probably have to move it down even further, and I have my high heels on. I promise I'll behave, John. So I was recruited almost by mistake, believe it or not. John, Michelle, and Jim came into the hotel where they have their meetings every Thursday and wanted to talk to our general manager and our director of sales about this corporate membership. Our director of sales happened to be busy, and Suzanne came in and said, I need you, come with me, we're going to sit, this is who we're meeting with, this is what we're doing, very quickly. And I said, okay, so off I went, and boy, am I glad I did. First of all, the corporate membership is a fantastic opportunity because, as you heard from everybody up here, time and commitment is one of the biggest, probably, discouragements for people to join the Rotary. With a corporate membership, you have your active member, which is myself, who now does not want to share the membership, by the way. Anyways, I have 3 other people on my team, as I call it, Team Rotary at the Doubletree, is our general manager, our director of sales, and another person from the sales office. So it allows us the opportunity to be able to commit ourselves more freely, allows more time for us to do what we need to do in the community and for Rotary. Myself, in our business, and like everybody else's, I'm sure, we're very busy. We do a lot of networking, we do a lot of after hours, we do a lot of chamber things. So our time is really, really actually tight for us to be able to get out and do what we need to do for Rotary when we accept that commitment. I found it a little bit easier now that I have the club that I'm a member of, also Gina. It is like a family, and I look forward to breakfast every Thursday. I don't want somebody else to come anymore. I want to go. So everyone said, well, Joanne, I'll go today. I'm like, no, I got it. Don't worry about it. Like, it's a big problem, but it really isn't. I don't want them to like it so much because, well, we do because we want more people there, Jim. I know you're looking at me like, wait. But I also don't want to share, so it is hard. But anyways, the corporate membership allows us, not only is it good for the hotel itself for exposure and to get into the community so people know we're there, what we do, and that we are volunteers and that we do care about the community itself. But also, it's a self thing for me. I just feel like when I first joined, I joined because it was a corporate membership, and that's just what we did. You know, they're paying for it, and I'm going to go. And I really, really have to be honest, didn't understand what Rotary really was, and I'm still learning. I'm brand new, and I still don't know everything that's wonderful about it, except for that I love the charity, the camaraderie, the family, what we do for the local community, what we do internationally. I didn't know all that, and here I was planning their breakfast every Thursday, writing up the BEOs, which we call in the hotel world, banquet event orders, and sending them off to operations, and that was it. It didn't even occur to me that it was an organization that I could be part of, both corporate and individually. The corporate membership allows financial, if maybe it's something that you can't afford to do, if the company is willing to do it for you. Allows you the extra time to do whatever it is, because you do have 3 other people to rely on, because I'm the active member and the other 3 are members. I was inducted at a $1 million meal. I didn't want to leave. I went with my colleagues. I should have taken my own car. We were having such a great time. I'm like, wait a minute, why are we leaving? But anyways, we did. We left. But it was just things that I just had no idea what Rotary was. And I've been in the hotel business for 28 years. And I've done a lot of Rotary meetings and had no idea. I really didn't. So I'm really, really happy that on that day, my general manager came to me and said, you need to fill in for the director of sales, and this is what we're doing. And here I am. So we have a great, great club, and I'm really proud to be part of it. We have 4 corporate members now, and it's really a good way to go. It's a really good way to beef up your membership, because it allows people the extra time, and with the finances, it helps too. So, I don't know if I'm done.
That's good. That's great.
Because I could go on. John was looking at me like.
No fines this week.